Right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our Q&A episode of the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast. I'm here today. Robyn and Colleen is teaching Animal Reiki today. So myself and Danny, you want to say hi, Danny?
Hi, everybody.
We'll be the facilitators of today's Q&A. So just a few quick announcements before we go ahead and get into that part of it. I would say, most of the things for those of you that are listeners, or if you watch on YouTube, you've kind of heard all of our announcements before this. You can find us at reikilifestyle.com. We teach Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Animal Reiki Master, myself, Colleen, and Sue Strong, who are 3 of the 4 authors of the ICRT Animal Reiki course, teach that together. So we teach it about every other month. You can find our class schedule at reikilifestyle.com. And then you can find Colleen's Human Reiki 1 and 2, Reiki Master, and Karuna Reiki Master at reikilifestyle.com, her schedule. She does have a 5-day Reiki 1 and 2 and Reiki Master coming up in the beginning of June. And taking the classes from her, because she is a licensed teacher through the ICRT, or the International Center for Reiki Training, qualifies you to be a professional member of the Reiki Membership Association. So she has that coming up. She's got a 5-day, which means if you're already a Reiki master but want to be a professional member, you can take those back to back, and that qualifies you. And then she also is taking a Karuna Reiki Master in teaching, not taking, I think I said taking, but she's teaching a Karuna Reiki Master in June. And she only teaches those a couple times a year. So if it's good timing for you to take Karuna Reiki, which is amazing, then you might want to look into her schedule for that. And then the only other thing that I want to announce is just the reminder of our free distance Reiki shares on Tuesday mornings. Those are at a little bit of a different time. They're at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. They're free, they're online, and they're open to all experience levels and all lineages. It's a really great way to come into a circle, a community of other, Reiki minded people, where you can just be in that beautiful circle. We've been doing it every Tuesday morning, every single Tuesday morning. We have not missed a week yet, for 3 years now. We started in March of 2020, and we've been doing it ever since then. And it's very casual. So if you are just kind of wanting to check it out, we try to keep it stress-free. You are welcome to, come in late if you need to, leave early if you need to. We have people that will join from work and just keep their video off and their audio off. The structure of it is that we always do like a little Reiki talk about different subjects that we're talking about for basically the month. And then we do like a Reiki guided meditation. Then we'll go into breakout rooms where we send and receive Reiki with each other. And then at the end, we send group Reiki to different world events, to people who are on our list, who need like extra support, and people will come in and put in the chat like, this so-and-so needs extra Reiki. Can you send Reiki to them as a group? So we will always do that. Again, we do have quite a few people who kind of come in and then they'll leave after the talk and the guided Reiki meditation, because for whatever reason, they're not able to go into breakout rooms. A lot of times it's because people join when they're at work, since it's at that time frame. So just know that if you are just Reiki curious and want to do that, or that just sounds like a nice thing to do in the morning, you're always welcome to do that. It's very comfortable to do that as well. So that's kind of the big thing that I wanted to announce. I think otherwise, we'll go ahead and go into the invocation, or the Reiki guided meditation, and then we will get into some questions. All right, so you can go ahead and get comfortable. For those of you that are here, if you want to turn your videos off, you can. I'm going to turn my video off just because that's how I feel more comfortable in leading this. And then we'll go ahead and get into some questions. All right. Forgive me just a moment as I take a drink of water. Close your eyes and take some deep breaths. If you're Reiki attuned, place your hands in Gasho and activate Reiki in between your palms. And if you're not, you can just allow the light of Reiki to surround your entire being, entire body right now. And the light of Reiki surrounds you. And as you breathe in, you breathe in that light. And it starts to fill your whole body, fills every cell within your body, fills from the bottoms of your feet to the top of your head, activating vitality and life force and light force within you. And as you breathe out, you send out on your breath anything that you're wanting to let go of today. And bringing your energy in from maybe any busyness, anything that you have to do later. And just bring yourself right here, right now, into this moment in time. Allow this time to be for you and about you. And allow the Reiki energy to lift you up, to activate all those places of love within you, all those places of bright colors and light within you. Place your hands comfortably on your body and receive Reiki. The power of self, power symbol, the power of love flows through you now and flows down from the highest sources of consciousness and into your heart and into your whole body, activating all of those places within you, activating that piece of you, that bright light, that key that is you, that piece of you that is the same and one with all life and the universe. And the heartbeat of the earth, the rhythms and the cycles of the earth, beating in the same rhythm as yours, flowing in the same cycles as your cycles, one with all, one with the cycles of the sun and the moon and the seasons and the years. It's all right here within you in this present moment. And you bring yourself within into this present moment, feeling all of that right here, right now within you. The changing of the trees and the plants, the cycles of the moon. And it's all right here within this present moment, within your being. And we call in the mental emotional symbol, your higher self, your divine mind, your intuition. As your chakras awaken even brighter, the red and the orange and the yellow, the green and the blue and the indigo and violet, bright and blue, bright and moving in the cycles, and the energy of you. The flow within you, those unseen things, the non-physical that is you, your higher self. It's all right here within you in this present moment. There's nowhere that you need to be or nothing that you need to do. Just be in the stillness and the brilliance and the miracle that is you. Right here, right now. And we call in the distance symbol, the divine heart, the connection to the divine, the God self. It's right here within you. Outside of time and space, a connection to all of that within everything that exists here on earth and in the universe and in the non-physical, the divine. And it's all right here within you. In this present moment, and you go within and feel and receive. You are a divine being. You are the universe, and the universe is you. You are the light, and the light is you. You spend a moment in stillness. Know that this is all right here within. You're knowing anything that is hiding, any layers that is hiding that knowing and that remembering from you. The light of Reiki flows down from the highest sources of consciousness and onto you and envelops you in the beautiful, warm, miraculous light, and lifts those layers that are hiding that from you, or that are covering that from you, causing you to forget what is really within, who you are, even within your humanness. That divinity within and all around. Your illumined ones standing in a circle around you. Filling the space that you're in. Shining their light onto you and within you and into your light. As they too are helping to lift the layers. As your authentic self reveals to you divine love, reveals to you it's within and all around. And the gifts and talents that you came here with, the gifts and talents that you receive, the frequencies that you have brought to the planet just by being you. Your soul and your spirit within, shining brightly, even in the days where you may not feel it. This light of the illumined ones, these beautiful beings are here to help you remember that your light is just like their light. And spend a moment noticing space around you, even if there's busyness around you. And connecting in to the gratitude of all of it. Beauty, even in the busyness. People going about their day. The plants and the animals, the birds singing. And the beauty of the earth, the divinity of the earth, of Gaia, and the gratitude for her in creating life, along with Brother Sun and Grandmother Moon. And now place your hands on your heart space and say thank you to you, being a creature of love, here connecting deeper and deeper into your spirit, into your soul within, into that light. The Reiki energy revealing and remembering all of those pieces of you. How beautiful and miraculous you are. We say thank you to each other. Our circle is always divinely ordered, and we were meant to be here together. Whether we're here together today or listening later, we're so very grateful to be in this community of light bringers. We say thank you to the teachers, to the ancestors who have come before us, to the students and the descendants who will come after. We're so grateful to be in a lineage of light bringers. We say thank you to the Reiki energy, to the illumined ones who are here supporting us and guiding us and helping us to return to our truth and our light. And shining brightly, shining that love into the world so that others may even feel the same. Thank you, and so it is. And so when you're ready, you can come fully back into your body, and open your eyes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Normally we get to spend a little bit more time, but in this case, we kind of have to come back in a little faster than normal. But if you're still in that space, just allow yourself to be in that space and continue to just receive the Reiki energy and let the power of the Reiki in that just continue to work and wash over you. Okay, so we do have some questions. Let's go ahead and start with you, Em.
Hi, thank you. When I'm out and about, there are times where the Reiki activates. I'm pretty much always activated, and I'm often very intentional. Similar to what you shared with me in Next Step class, you went into a commissary and it's like, whoops, shields up. And that's a state when I'm out in public that I normally am. But there are times where it seems to hyperactivate, and I feel it drawing hard and fast away from me in various directions. And I know it's not me, because while I'm still being intentional, it's not, and there are people around me. So anything to share about that, or recommendations? Sometimes I get intentional and I become aware that there's an uptick, and I begin going within and listening. Where is this going to? How do I proceed with this? But other times, like in the beginning, it was often somewhat freaky. But thankfully I'm in my third year of Next Step, and things aren't as freaky.
Well, I guess the first question would be, does it feel like it is coming from your life force, or does it feel like it's fully just the Reiki energy channeling through you?
Good question. I don't know. I guess that's something that I need to explore. Is there a difference in the physical sensation?
Well, I think that would be unique to each person if there's a difference in the physical sensation. But that would be the first thing that I would check in with. That if you are feeling that it would be, intuitively check in with, to make sure that it's the Reiki energy as opposed to your own life force, and that it is channeling through you as opposed to coming from you. But if the good thing about the Reiki energy is that it can never do harm. So for example, if somebody needs it as you're walking by in the store and you feel like, oh, okay, that somebody needs that, Reiki is going to go to them in the way that in which they're wanting to receive it. And so if they're not wanting to receive it, it won't go to them, essentially, because obviously we all have our divine choice in that. If you are, the other thing to know is that you also always have a choice with that happening. So, you can always dialogue with the Reiki energy, maybe even bring in some spirit guides. If you are not wanting this occurrence to happen, if it's draining on you, that is a good indication that it is coming from your own life force as opposed to coming from the Reiki energy. I know in those places where that can happen, or my empathy gets really pulled on, I have the choice to, let me rephrase that, because I do feel like sometimes it happens and we don't really realize that it's happening. And then we, in retrospect, we're like, oh, that happened to me. But to know when and where that happens for you is really a key part of it, because you are then able to go into your skills and really talk to the Reiki energy, really utilize the Reiki energy to help you and support you when that happens. There are times I know when I go into the grocery store where I actually choose to run the Reiki energy, as just an example. I actually choose to run the Reiki energy before I go in. If I'm in a place where I feel, like I'm like able to do this, I'm in a fine place. I don't, I'm able to do this, where I will run the Reiki energy and do things like leave Reiki trails, where whoever wants to receive, I mean, it's just in a kind of a bubble around me, but whoever wants to receive, it goes to them, where I'm just kind of in this really, peaceful state where the Reiki energy is running, where I just allow it to be received by whoever wants to receive it within the grocery store. I just find it interesting because when I do that, it's amazing how much of a difference I perceive everybody in the grocery store, even in the challenging people, even in the people where I noticed this one time that I was just kind of in my full judgment, if I'm being completely transparent. um, there was somebody dressed a certain way, where I know there are probably a lot of things that I would not agree with them in the way that they may, some of the opinions that they may have. Um, I live in a rural community, if that's any indication on how that might be. And so I was like, ugh, if I'm being authentic about this situation. And I called in Reiki around it, because when I realized that I was in that moment, I realized that where I needed to go was healing for myself, because and this is not really super related to your question, Em. I know it's a little bit of a different topic. That I was like, oh, look at me in my judgment. How Reiki is that of me to be in my full judgment around this person based on the way that they were dressed, not based on talking to them, not based on knowing anything about them. It was just based on the way that they're dressed, and assuming that we probably had different opinions on certain things. And I realized in that moment that it wasn't necessarily even my empathy that was being tugged on in situations. Like, it wasn't a hard situation where my empathy gets tugged on. It was me being in my judgment around that. And so I called in Reiki and I said, Reiki, heal me. I forget the exact statement in this moment, but essentially heal me so that I can be in greater service to others. That statement that you say around before you go into a session. And it was really amazing how it switched, how I responded and reacted to this person. And Reiki was like, look at this reflection of yourself. Not that I, may believe the same things as this person, but that everything is a mirror, right? And that I needed to go into my healing. I needed to go into more of a place of love if I'm going to have any effect in this world, on this plane. And when I did that, what Reiki did is it actually took off all of our human suits and all of our suits of everybody that was in the store, and just allowed me to see this person as the divine spirit that they are within, that this invocation just talked about. That what I see myself as this, but I don't see somebody else as this, that I outside of our human suits, that like, oh, this person isn't a divine light inside, only I'm a divine light inside, or people that are in my community are in a divine light inside. Like, this person is a divine light inside as well. And so it was a really beautiful experience, because Reiki healed me and my judgment in that moment. Because how can I be the change that I see in the world? Like, how can I even just carry the frequencies of love so that that love can extend to this person? And if I'm in my judgment, does that frequency go to this person as opposed to the frequency of love? And so that's actually an exercise that I will do in the store now before I go in, where I will call in Reiki and say, I'm just going to see the people in here outside of any external piece, just as these divine beings of light. It's actually really fun. So if anybody wants to do that exercise, it's a really fun thing to do, because it does drop all of those barriers and allows me to be the Reiki energy, which is divine love. And I when we did the podcast with Franz Stina, that was a really neat story that he talked about just being the Reiki energy. And he kind of told a very similar story about when he was at this coffee shop and he's just being the Reiki energy, and how much it doesn't matter about our human suits, how it's just you're extending this Reiki energy to everybody, and people can feel that, and it changes their frequencies, just even if it's in that moment, right? It's that entrainment. And so I know that's not really your question, but it went there. So that's where I decided to go with it. When it comes to the empathy and to the Reiki pulling from you like that, the first thing to notice is whether it's your life force or whether it's the Reiki energy. If it's the Reiki energy and you feel comfortable allowing that to flow through you, then you can go for it. It's like when I go into the grocery store, I feel comfortable with allowing the Reiki energy to flow into other people as they need it, as they're willing to receive it. If I feel like it's hard or depleting me, that's when I know it's coming from my life force energy. Or if I'm just not in the place personally, like let's say I'm having a really hard day, or some cycle is happening in my life where I can't do that. I need to utilize that Reiki energy solely for me. Like that's like what I need the most. And healing myself is what I need the most, because that's all we're all responsible for, is just healing ourselves. But when I feel like I need that, that's when I will really dialogue with it and say, no, I need you for me. Let's keep it within this container. Let's keep it within this field for me, because that's what I need today. I need the Reiki energy for me. So you just also feel comfortable that you get to set those boundaries with it and around it as well. That you get to have that choice, and to do it intentionally, because sometimes we notice it after, but we can also learn from that and also know that in the future, this is what I need to do for myself. Oh, this happened. Okay, this is what I need to do for myself. And then on the other hand, is in those times of retrospect, or in those times where our empathy, has been, it's been, I don't know the right word for this, but it's been like kind of gone through the shields. It's been penetrated, like our empathy has gone out to a place that we, don't necessarily, it's too far out, right? that's when you would spend time in self Reiki and bringing it back in, like after the fact, like, oh, this is my empathy here. This was my life force. So I need to call in, you're in your bedroom, you're doing your self Reiki. I need to call this in. I need to call in my spirit guides to help support me. So you can do it in retrospect and know that you can fill back up after something like that has happened, because we're empaths. It happens, it's inevitable. Like it happens, and you just realize after, like, oh shoot, like that's what happened there. Hopefully from this point forward, I will know like the symptoms, right, that cause it to happen. I'll know when it's happening, which starts to happen after you kind of start to recognize what's happening there. So does that answer your question? Sorry, I went in a little tangent there in the middle of it.
It was not a tangent. That was an impeccably timed answer, because you have described my last 2 days, walking around town, walking into town, walking on the boardwalk. And, the energy of people is very different from the energy of animals and plants. And, I know when that is occurring, and it's open and it's very transparent, because everybody brings their animals out and about. And thanks to Animal 1 and 2 and Animal Master and Next Step, you guys have got me really present to, I can tell before whether it's a no or not. And so I just, I let it go, and I do the Reiki trails and the animal Reiki trails, which is really awesome. But since Mother's Day, I have just noticed this I've become more aware of this major uptick of this really hard, fast, strong pull. And it's like, what is this? Where is it going? And is there anything for me to do about it? And, so no, that was a perfect answer. There were no tangents in there. Communication received gratefully. I appreciate you. That was impeccable. And your coaching was spot on. I'll be more cognizant as I experience it and dialogue with Reiki to, what are my next actions? Is there anything for me to do? So cool.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to put it, is that we have these things happen and we're like, wait, what is this? Why has this changed? We do have some big astrological changes happening this week. So that can be in the mix as well. But that's exactly what you do, is that not everything is going to be able to be, preventable in these kinds of things as well, that we do have something change, that something does happen, and you do go, well, wait a second, like I'm noticing this difference. What is this? What are my tools? How do I shift this? How do I make sure that I'm cared for and protected, or filtered, as many people put in the chat, that Reiki is really great for. So there are those things that's also part of this process. And, it can be challenging. And then at the same time, I don't know if it ever changes where we don't, notice something in retrospect, or as it's kind of happening after a couple days, and then be like, oh, okay, I see this happening. I need to call on Reiki. I need to call on my guides. I need to call on my skills that I have and discern what's happening here, and, try to help ourselves to move through it, and what it is, and what's it about, and then going from that place.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Taylor said in the chat, yeah, astrology is not subtle right now. So no. So there's lots going on that way. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
I was just going to add what Steve said too. He says, I love using Reiki as a bubble or filter so it can help manage every flow of energy, both in and out of my energy field.
Yeah.
And then also we have a question that is kind of resonant with this from Christine, if she's still here, if she wants to ask her question.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I can ask my question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Can you
Christine.
hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, okay, super. So I really like working with cats in general, but I work with all animals and I like to talk to all of them. And I didn't know whether in your work, whether they had a preference on how they would like to be treated, as in, you know, how they like to be talked to, or if there are certain types of treatments that they like in their healing, and whether they have, what kind of spirit guides they have, and do I connect with their spirit guides in helping them heal?
Yeah. And you said cats, right, Christine?
Yeah, I generally work with cats.
All right, great. Good question. Danny, do you want to go ahead and put your input on this? Danny works with a lot of animal Reiki and definitely with cats. So I wanted to know what your perspective was on this.
So Christine, like your first question was, how do you know if they want Reiki?
And just different tools that you can
Different
work
tools.
with cats.
Well, for
Yeah,
me,
how they want to be talked to, what kind of you know, how do they want to be approached, you know, so that they feel that I have honored who they are.
I see. Well, for me, I work with quite a few cats, and so they're all different. They all have different personalities, so it really depends on their personality. And what I do with cats is I have them come to me. And so I just create Reiki fields. Actually, we were just talking about that. I activate Reiki. And if I'm in person, or even if I'm not, if it's a distance session, I do the same thing. I activate Reiki in a certain area. And if the cat wants Reiki, it typically goes over in that area. If I'm doing distance, I might pick a place in the house that the cat is not in, like under a window or something. And so it's very interesting how the cat will go over in that area and start cleaning itself, or just lay in the, you know, on its back or something, and just really enjoy it. So cats are very, to me, they will tell you exactly what they want. Where dogs are more like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Cats are like, yeah, I want it. And then they don't want it. And so I think you definitely know when a cat is done wanting Reiki, but just putting your intention out there, activating, like Robyn was just talking about, creating the bubble, creating the filter, and that's how I start with a cat session.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I would say is, Christine, is that with all animals, and cats too, as Danny said, cats have a particular personality and they're very good at boundaries. Cats will teach you about boundaries. Is that animal Reiki in general doesn't have to be hands-on. So, and actually a lot of times animals don't prefer hands-on because it can almost feel like too intense for them. And they will let you know if they want hands-on Reiki. So this was a really big learning curve, I think, for even as we were writing the animal Reiki manual, to learn the level of that, and allowing the animal to guide the session, allowing the animal to guide also the level of touch that they may or may not want. Cats can be, certain cats can be Reiki, what we call Reiki hogs. So you'll have to end the session, right? Where they would just keep going and going and going. And it's like, okay, it's been an hour and we have to end the session now. But to know that they may not want, they may be most comfortable lying in their bed, and you're going to create like what Danny said, that Reiki zone or Reiki kind of bubble around them and send it even if you're sitting on the couch, and know that that's how they want the Reiki. Other times they're going to come up and lay in your lap and they want you to put your hands on them and give them Reiki. Danny's cat Grayson is notorious for that. She'll send us pictures all the time of her hand on Grayson. So it just depends on, you know, their personality, what they want, and it can depend on the day. Some days they want that, other days they don't. Also, it's kind of actually one of the big things that we all learned as the in animal Reiki, and how many stories that we have coming into the class about permission, that as animals we also ask their permission. So you know, would you like Reiki, would you not like Reiki, and watch their body language, like size, relaxation, things like that, can be like a yes, or just feeling the Reiki flowing, like you feel that intuitively, can be a yes, or your hands, you know, you feel it flowing. And then no's aren't as common, but they can be like, they're animals like, I'm out of here, no. Or you really feel that kind of block from the energy flowing. That's another way that you can know that it's a no. So that's like kind of the first piece of it, of just gaining that consent, and then again knowing on whether they want hands-on or not. It's allowing the animal or the cat to choose that level of touch and Reiki, and knowing that if they don't want hands-on, that doesn't mean that they don't want Reiki. And then the other thing of, like, you know, it's one thing, they might go to the spot where they feel comfortable, maybe it's on the bed or under the bed or something like that, that we can follow them or just put the Reiki zone there. That's okay, especially like if they're scared or injured or a more timid cat, that can be a place of comfort for them. But we also aren't going to be chasing them around, laser beaming Reiki at them. You will take Reiki, you know, it is more of a passive kind of send. You can talk to them intuitively, or you can talk to them verbally. Animals understand both. So some animals like actual words spoken to them. Other animals kind of prefer like a telepathic imagery type conversation. It just depends on the animal. You can connect through your heart chakras, and that can help you in that process of you know, communicating with them. So that's a way to communicate with them. And then cats absolutely, or animals can have spirit guides. I would say what I've seen most commonly is that they will work kind of with the non-physical animal kingdom, as opposed to maybe just one animal, but both are absolutely possible. So again, that would just be your intuition and each cat, you know, in general. We do work with what's called the divine animal kingdom in the ICRT animal Reiki. And that is the divine representations of the animal kingdom. And so they are beings that are in the third level of consciousness or higher, and they are fully enlightened, meaning there's no duality within them. How it shows up in like the animal Reiki that we teach is that they're kind of like this circle of divine animals, and the physical animal that you're working with may go into the center of them and work with the circle, where the circle is shining their light onto the animal in the center. And sometimes that shows up as a full circle. Other times there might just be a couple animals there. And if you're at that point, you can ask, are any of these this cat's spirit guide or this animal's spirit guide? There's a lot of right ways to practice animal Reiki. That's the other thing, that you can just use your existing Reiki, use some of these tools as a practitioner. And Christine, it sounds like you work with this style of Reiki, where you might work with, like, you know, spirit guides and things like that. Other people don't. And you can just know that Reiki energy in all forms is going to work with animals, but there are those few kind of tips and tricks that can be helpful. And the knowledge too, that knowing that not all animals like hands-on Reiki is super helpful, because you think that they don't like it or something like that, but actually they just need kind of a different approach that's a little less intense. The other thing to know is, I know I talked about how animals can be, or cats can be Reiki hogs. Horses and cats are kind of notorious for that. A session can also be really short. So some animals are 5 to 10 minutes. So you activate the Reiki, at 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They can be like, you can kind of feel it to stop flowing, or they just completely kind of piece out of the room. And to know that they don't have as many layers as we do. So the Reiki energy is received by them really efficiently and, really powerfully. So they don't necessarily need the same amount of time that us humans do, where you're trying to, the Reiki's getting through all the layers that we have, where animals don't have as many layers. So they take to the Reiki energy really, really easily and really efficiently and really powerfully. So that's a possibility too. Danny, go ahead. I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I was just going to add that also, Christine, I imbue my cat's water dishes and food. And so they're able to receive Reiki if they like it every time they go to that. And then also, my cats don't really have guides, but I do have certain symbols I use with each cat. So one of the cats is a mental emotional symbol every time, and my other one's the power symbol every time. It's just their go-to. So I thought I was thinking about that. And so it is interesting how I have certain symbols I use with particular cats. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Great. Imbuing, which means just charging with Reiki, is really a great tip for working with animals and animal Reiki. Food, medicine, water, kind of all of the things that we would do for humans, you can do for animals as well in that regard. So yeah, thank you so much. Also, I'm going to put in the chat an article that we wrote. It's on reikilifestyle.com, that we wrote, that gives you kind of the priorities of animal Reiki, and then session tips and just some other things. Christine, it sounds like you already work with them, so some of it might be, you might already know around it all, but there might be some helpful things that you can put in there. Also, anybody that is kind of new to animal Reiki and wondering how to do that, if you go to reikilifestyle.com, for those of you that are listening, we'll put it in the show notes, but if you go to reikilifestyle.com, we have actually multiple articles about working with animal Reiki. So there's one that is called, the one I'm talking about for you, Christine, is Animal Reiki, A Gift to Animals and Humanity. And it was written by all 4 of us authors. And there's just some, kind of more of the basic animal Reiki tips and tricks, talking about that consent, talking about some of those things. So you can go to that. And then Colleen wrote an article about different lessons that she's learned from animals that can be helpful. And then I wrote another article about working with animals at end of life too, because that's another big place that animal Reiki is super helpful, and where it can be common as a practitioner to work with them at end of life. So Christine, great question. I hope that kind of answered all of your questions. Was there anything else that I didn't answer, or any other part of your question that I might have missed?
I liked all of everyone's ideas, and I guess it made me think about how when I Reiki myself, the animals just come on and sleep on top of me.
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of that Reiki zone. They'll come into the energy. They love doing that. My cat notoriously comes in when we're doing even meditations, or when I'm in sessions, or I don't know how they know. She'll come in when we're teaching, just come into the placements or, the attunements, and then leave afterwards. It's just incredible how they know that we're doing that, especially if it's not at a consistent time, that they feel the energy. And yeah, they absolutely love that as well and receive the Reiki energy. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. All right. Go ahead, Danny.
And we have another question from someone here, and she says, can you attune an animal or person that has passed?
Oh, great question. I don't know if I've actually personally had that situation come up. But I think that if you have the guidance that they're wanting that, I would listen to your guidance and the guidance of Reiki. And if you work with any guides, asking them about it and dialogue with the energy and dialogue with the person or animal, or dialogue with, I think I said dialogue with the Reiki energy. I think that if you are receiving that guidance, that is what, the being, whether it's human or animal, is wanting, I definitely don't put it out of the realm of possibilities. I think that, my practice is so much like all of us here, and Danny and Colleen, and that our practice is so much as, infinite right ways to practice and infinite ways that the answers are right for you. And that even though I haven't had that situation come up, doesn't mean that it wouldn't or couldn't. And I love the possibility of that, of like, ooh, that's an interesting one to explore. So yeah, I think that it's absolutely possible. I don't put a parameter around that. I just haven't personally ever had that situation happen for me. So I think that's a really neat thing to kind of explore and to think about, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I know that I have done sessions on animals as they were passing, but I don't know that I've attuned them. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and obviously connected with transitioned animals and people, and like you said, as as they are transitioning, but not an attunement as they have,
Right.
from the other side. So that's super fascinating. Why would you want to attune a human who has passed? I think that if this person is receiving guidance, that is what the transitioned person is wanting or needing. I just don't put it out of the realm of possibilities. I just haven't had that situation come up, so I can't answer that question. But I think that there's infinite possibilities, especially when you're getting into the non-physical realms, into the enlightened realms. There's just so many infinite possibilities and guidance that just because I haven't had that happen, in my human experience, does not mean that it doesn't happen or hasn't happened or is wrong for it to happen or, shouldn't happen or anything like that.
I just wanted to say, if I can, that when my mother-in-law was passing away, I actually attuned her, and it was probably the most profound experience I've ever had, because the whole room just lit up. And when she passed away, we didn't even know she passed away. It was so peaceful. And prior to the attunement, she was struggling to let go, struggling to breathe. So it really is a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Daxa. I definitely have had that same situation, and Danny as well. And how much, like you said, just light and beauty and love that it can bring to everyone in the situation. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, we have another question from Annie.
Hold on, Danny.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's go to the question about Reiki practitioner. Was that one still needing about in Portland?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Joseph, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to say your name. So
Oh
go
yeah.
ahead.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, my family and I moved to Portland about 2 years ago. And so I don't know a whole lot of local people yet in the Reiki community. And I'm a practitioner myself, but I'm interested in connecting with somebody for myself, but also mostly right now for my son who's 20 years old. And I think hands-on would be kind of ideal, someone in Portland, Oregon, or but I thought this might be a great place to just sort of ask for ideas, suggestions, referrals, recommendations. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, or I'm not looking for, I don't know, but if you have recommendations or suggestions, I'd really, really love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question in general too. So, Joseph, do you have our email address by chance? Because we're in Portland.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the best email address to use?
Go ahead and email. Well, Danny said she had asked a practitioner that we all know very well, and we weren't sure if she was doing hands-on in person yet. And so why don't you just go ahead, and you can always email Colleen at Reiki Lifestyle. Is that best, Danny, or do you want Danny at Reiki Lifestyle? Okay. Go ahead and email Colleen at reikilifestyle.com. And we'll go ahead and give you a recommendation of an in-person
Okay.
that we all know very well and trust. We're not doing in person right now. We're just doing distance, but definitely have a really large community here, so we can make plenty of recommendations for in-person practitioners.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. In general, when you have that, also, Joseph, I want to recommend, have you been to New Renaissance Bookstore yet?
No.
Okay. Write that one down. It's on Northwest 23rd. Sorry, a little local knowledge here right now. It's on Northwest 23rd, and really a pillar of the community, of the spiritual community here in Portland. There's other amazing bookstores and different spiritual shops as well. But they have been in the community for 40 years. I mean, I don't know exactly, but it's been a long time. And they just have a ton of resources of different types of spiritual practitioners. And that would be something that I would recommend for anybody who's new to an area, is to check out some of those kinds of locations. You could also find in-person Reiki shares if you're looking for a Reiki community. We did them I think Colleen's been hosting an in-person Reiki share for 20 something years. And we just went online in 2020. And I don't know if we'll go back to in-person, but we know a lot of people that are doing in-person Reiki shares. So finding community that way is a great way. But spiritual bookshops are another way. If you're new to a different city and trying to find community, is another way to make connections and find different types of practitioners. I know for New Ren in particular, they do presentations, and we'll have different kinds of practitioners there in the shop, so that you can kind of get a taste of, who they are, what they do. They do in person, online. And so it's just a really great way to also meet community. So just another suggestion. And then again, if anybody's new to a community, Google a Reiki share, a Reiki circle, if there's any in person, and that is a really great way to meet community in your area.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And if you have any more of those questions, Joseph, specifically about Portland, in different Reiki circles or something that we would know people are running, we can certainly let you know. So just email us.
So, and I should just email Colleen at reikilifestyle.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph, and welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad you're in Portland.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so for anybody else too, when you're new to an area, if you have a massage therapist or an acupuncturist or, somebody in these kinds of fields where they are working with, you know, sometimes massage therapists or acupuncturists might not have any recommendations. But those are another place if you have any indication that they do any sort of energy work, or, you know, kind of this kind of spiritual practices, they might know somebody who they can recommend for different spiritual things, but Reiki too. So those are other good people to ask around, you know, different parts of the community, especially if they're well established. They're gonna probably know somebody that can lead you down the right path to practitioners, community in your area, because not everybody has like I mean, how many bookshops or spiritual locations do we have in Portland? We have a lot here. So it's easy here, but I know not everybody does. And so that's where you can ask in different ways, different types of people, yoga teachers, you know, anybody who's in kind of this, that could be considered in the spiritual space. You can ask them if they've been well established. There is a really likely chance that they're going to know somebody that's either, oh no, but ask my friend and they might know, that kind of thing, that they're going to know community members. And again, always Reiki shares, if they have them in your area, that's such a great way to get connected into a Reiki community. All right, Danny, I think you said there was a question from Annie.
Yes, let me go back to that just in a second. Annie says, can a beginning Reiki practitioner use invocations such as the ones offered so generously on your website with clients in a healing session?
Absolutely. And that's why they're there, actually. I will tell you that it is how we all started, even just by reading those invocations. And that's a part of the reason that we offered them, because our invocations and meditations at this point are channeled, but they weren't always, and read them for a lot of years. And definitely as a beginning Reiki practitioner, it can be super helpful as you build kind of your confidence, is really what it comes down to. Confidence, although, you know, there's a few helpful tips in there, but your confidence in doing that out loud for your sessions. So yeah, we absolutely all did it as beginner practitioners. It's super helpful for you, for the client, just bringing you together in the space, activating that Reiki energy. They can be really simple too. I know we have some longer ones on there, but we also have some shorter ones, and that's not a bad place to start, as again, you're kind of building your confidence on that. Also feel very comfortable with those to change them how you want. So, you know, in the beginning of that booklet was what Danny's referring to, or Annie's referring to, is we have a booklet on our website. It's under the Reiki library. And if you go to free downloads, you'll see it's a invocation and prayers booklet. And in that, you'll find like 5 steps to create your own invocation, and then you'll find different ones that are written out for you. There's also a template that you can add in kind of your own things. Feel very comfortable changing those. If there's something that you resonate with in one of them and something else in a different part of one of them, you can take bits and pieces to make your own. Change the word, like maybe in one part it says God or angels, and that's not how your practice resonates. You can change it to consciousness or spirit, illumined beings or ascended masters. So feel very comfortable changing them to what resonates with you as well. But it's 100% appropriate, and a really great way in your practice just to, I've said build confidence a few times in this answering to this question, but it's true. It's a really great way to do that. It's a great way to connect into how that all looks for you in your practice, how what resonates, what doesn't, how Reiki's guiding you, to all of those kinds of things that, using an invocation can be really helpful for you in your practice, as you know, as we know, kind of the more that we do that, the more that we develop that, the deeper our connection grows with Reiki. So yeah, feel comfortable doing that. And like I said, we all read them for a long time until we got comfortable doing them, not reading them. Danny, did you have something you wanted to add to that? I just see you're unmuted, so I didn't know if you did.
Oh, no, I
Okay.
didn't.
All right. Yeah. Did you do the same thing too, where you kind of read them or memorized
yeah.
a short one at least?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for a long time. And it was so helpful. So I didn't have to think about it. And it just is really, it's how I start all my sessions. So it's really nice. It's really good to have.
Yeah, it really is. And what we're talking about when we talk about invocations is essentially you're invoking the energy. So you're doing that just simply even by doing your preparations that you might have been taught in Reiki 1 or Reiki 1 and 2. That the preparations are a form of an invocation because you're connecting in with the energy, right? You're turning it on, for lack of a better way to say it. You're turning it on, and that's what you're doing in an invocation. Is you're bringing the energy, bringing you to the energy. You're invoking it within you, all around you, and through your hands for the session. So that's what an invocation is doing. That's kind of the purpose of it. Or if you're with a client, you're bringing you together. You're kind of setting the container of the space to have the energy to help support you in the session. And again, you're just the channel for the Reiki energy. So you're turning it on and allowing that process to happen. These are just a longer form of that process than just a preparation. So that is the kind of what the invocation is doing and what its purpose is. And it's up to you. You may not feel the need for that level of preparation, but I know for us, we like it. It helps our clients to feel more relaxed. It's a space where we set the intention of the session. So there's a lot of purposes for it. What also you can do is you can do one of the shorter ones and kind of memorize it if you want. But if you don't want to just be holding a piece of paper, you could also, put it in a little booklet. I know, like when we've facilitated ceremonies or weddings, things like that, we'll print it out in a little smaller form and like paste it into a booklet so it looks a little better when you're actually reading it. The client's eyes are normally going to be closed, so there is that piece of it. But I know for me, I just felt more comfortable having it in a booklet, so I wasn't just reading it. Although I've done that too, and done that in Reiki shares as well, where I have done that part of it. Also, you could maybe do it in your interview, like just before they get on the table. So you might be sitting in chairs, you're interviewing, maybe you're even writing down on your client forms, or you're writing down in your notebook, and you could maybe have your invocation somehow put in that part of it too. So then you have your client close their eyes, maybe you're even going in and out of closing your eyes, and it's in your booklet or in your place where you write your notes or something like that. So just another way to kind of maybe help it look a little better. And then as you continue to do that process, then you do get more comfortable with it, and maybe you even start to improvise a little bit of it, or shift the words around as they come through to you a little bit too. All right. Danny, you said somebody else.
Yeah. Andre put in the chat. I have a question about Reiki flow. Sometimes it feels almost tangible and sometimes doesn't. It doesn't matter how long I do it. It feels like there's nothing there. I know Reiki works anyway, no matter the sensation, but it feels like it's not moving, like still or stuck. And it just feels like it's not working.
Oh, really interesting. Well, the first thing that I would say is that's completely normal. So just know that even so many years on, and Andre, I know that you're a very experienced Reiki practitioner, that is it's a very normal experience. And like you said, you trust that the Reiki energy is, working anyway. We had a student come through that actually is a very experienced Reiki practitioner and teacher, and said that she never feels the Reiki flow, has never felt the Reiki flow, but just knows that it does based on her results. And actually is pretty candid about that piece of it, as far as like when she's teaching her students, because it's kind of normalizing that, because so many of us talk about how our hands were super hot or cold, or, we just have this, like you said in the beginning of your question, this crazy rush of energy where we really, really feel it, like you said, almost tangible. And it's really that powerful experience. So many of us talk about that side of it, and yet we don't always talk about the times where we may not feel it at all, right? And I would say too that a really common place for that is self Reiki. That people actually, that is a place that people talk about it a little bit more, that they don't feel it in self Reiki as much as they do for others. So that's another place. So it is normal, like you said, know that it is also, it's still working. And I know you said that piece of it, but the other thing that I would add to that is that it is possible that what you're feeling is actually what is happening for your client. So not necessarily if you're not feeling it flowing, but that stuck energy that you mentioned, like where maybe it is feeling very stuck, it could be also your client that is experiencing that. And I don't want to say that's 100% of the time, because I don't want to assign that to the clients that, maybe it's not, but it is very possible. And I've definitely experienced that, where it does kind of flow less or stop in maybe even a certain place, where I'm just going to use an example, maybe in their solar plexus, like in their solar plexus chakra, or at that place in their abdomen, where it just kind of stops, and maybe you don't even feel it flowing that way. Not only your hands are stopping, but you're not feeling it. Could be very possible that is stuck energy there that does need to flow. And so that's another piece of this. It's kind of like, we've talked about quite a bit when our minds are very distracted in a Reiki session. And sometimes that's us, but many times it's actually the client whose mind is in mind chatter, mind is in a lot of that distraction piece of it. And maybe you're talking after and you're like, oh yeah, I was in mind chatter the whole time. And you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. So definitely be open to that idea that it could be that it could be the client that is also having that kind of stuck energy. It can be both. So it can feel different for each person. It can feel different for each session. It can feel different for each practitioner, for each session, and to know that that's completely normal, and to just, I guess, try not to have too much attachment to it, would be the word that I would use around that. Also, you can ask Reiki, you can dialogue with Reiki. What's going on here? Why do I feel this way? Sometimes Reiki is going to give you answers. Other times it's just moving into that level of trust and knowing that Reiki energy is working in the way that it needs to work in that moment.
And Steve put in the chat, yes, and there are infinite different healing frequencies within the energy of Reiki. So the way we experience it will likely feel different for whatever reason. It also could be that the healing flow kicks in for the client at some point later, long after the session.
Yeah, that's a really great point, is that you might not be feeling it in that moment, or maybe it is the stuck energy in the client too, that's moving or that's being released in that moment, but they don't feel it in that moment, but they do feel it later. So yeah, thanks for that point, Steve. Very true. All right. And Meg, did you have a different question or was it in relation to this?
I have a question about past lives.
Okay. Hey, Meg, I think we have somebody else that we needed to answer first, though,
Okay.
and then we'll go ahead and come back to you. So I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand, but we have you on the list.
We have one from Jess. Giving Reiki on the fly via handshake or hug, how long does it last? Is the time frame based on intention set or just a few short seconds?
I would say it's as long as the person needs. Yeah.
Mhm.
If they need it to last for a really long time, then I think it'll last for the really long time. Also, yes, you can set the intention that the Reiki and the fly is lasting longer than what you're able to do in that moment. So, especially to ourselves, Reiki on, I need this to last while I'm going through whatever I'm needing it for, if you're really in your busyness. And just to Reiki on the fly is actually a term that Colleen coined, that this is another place that we have an article around in that Reiki library. Reiki on the fly is a life management tool. So in your busyness, she really utilized Reiki on the fly when she was caregiving for her mom, my grandma, and would be heading to the hospital for all the different reasons that caregiving can entail, and would not have time to really go into that long practice of Reiki. And so as she would be driving there, Reiki on, asked to support me through this process, so that I can come from this place of this higher energy source, that it can support me so that it's not coming from my own life force. And so that it does what it needs. So in that case, she would say, okay, Reiki on, I need this to flow while I am in my busyness throughout all of this. And that intention definitely made a difference. And then, other times it could just be, I just need it for this moment, for a handshake. And if it's for somebody else, however long their higher self knows that they need it. So I need it as a parent a lot. I have a young child, and I definitely need it as a parent a lot, that I may not always have time to. Actually, last night at bedtime, I needed it. I called it in because I was really frustrated. Stepped out of the bedroom for a second, her bedroom for a second, took a deep breath, Reiki on, blow through me, went back into the bedroom, and was instantly not as frustrated. And so helped me in that moment, but I wouldn't say I needed it for a really long time outside of that time and space. It just helped me to come back to that place of love within me that Reiki supports and Reiki activates, rather than the frustration energy that was building. So it can be utilized in so many different areas, and for as long or as short as you need, or as is needed by your higher self or other higher self. So.
And just, also stating that Reiki on the fly, like when I used to volunteer in the cancer clinic, you don't do symbols and draw symbols all over. So I just, intended Reiki on the fly. And also, like what Em was talking about earlier, or you walking into the mall or the supermarket, and I just say Reiki on, Reiki on. I don't have to, I just know that it's there. So it's a fast. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And as Ms. Takata said, Takata Sensei, Reiki on. So.
Okay, and we have one from Justine. Do you have to use specific crystals on a Reiki peace grid?
Oh, good question. I think that there would probably be a couple answers to this. For my own personal peace grid, or I should say for my viewpoint of this, I think any crystals that you're attracted to work for the peace grid. Somebody else might say that you need to use the double terminated quartz crystals that are talked about in the master manual, or that are in the picture. Those aren't always easy to come by, first of all, and they can also, especially in the bigger ones can be expensive. So it's not always a reality for that to happen. So in my opinion, I say what you're most connected to, and what also is what you can do as far as you access to them. I would even say that like you can go and collect some river rock, and those would have a beautiful relationship connection to the world peace energy. Obviously collect the river rock in a way that is good, but that it would have a connection to it as well, or any other types of crystals that you would want to do. But again, somebody else might give you a different answer. But I'm always kind of about the accessibility piece of it, because I think that we can all practice in our own ways. And I'll get to practice in our own ways regardless. I don't think it's less powerful that we may go get river rock to do this work than a beautiful clear double terminated crystal, and a huge generator in the center, which is the generator, like the ones that are flat on the bottom and the points at the top. So I think that they work at any level. It's about an intention with that, and charging them with Reiki. So clearing them and charging them with Reiki. You may also, that's a piece of it that's going to be really helpful, so that you can set that intention into your grid as far as that. And there's a lot around grid work out there. So you can Google grids, grid work. You might have already done that, or might have already know around that. Kathy Milanowski is a licensed Reiki master teacher. She's a colleague, and she does a lot of teaching around grid work and different crystals. And so you can go to her. What is the name of her business? Danny, do you know off the top of your head? Kathy Milanowski. Yeah, gosh, you can Google her or look on our Facebook. She would be a common friend, and you can look her up, and she teaches classes, but there's lots of information too around it all. She just specifically really talks about how to do Reiki with that piece of it. But quartz is always a great way to, quartz in general, you can just even have, I'm trying to see, I don't have my quartzes behind me. I only have my both of us only have our my double terminated one. I don't have my little just raw quartz pieces. But what is wonderful about quartz in general is that it is a very neutral stone. So it's a great way to go ahead and charge it with Reiki and your intentions. And that is a part of the reason that it is used on the peace grids, is just the qualities and the properties of quartz crystal in general. So a lot of us use quartz for that reason, is that they can retain, is not the right word, but retain the different intentions that you have, the different wisdom, knowledge, all of that. They hold that for you. And lots of different crystals have a lot of different properties, and you can look all of that up. There's so much information. And that is a part of the reason that quartz is on the peace grid, and why it is it's what I have on my peace grid. I have some raw quartz that I'm really connected to, and that's what I have on my peace grid. But I also have one of the little peace grids, the little 3x5s. Those are free to download, and there's little tiny crystals, quartz crystals, and a little quartz tumbled stone in the center. And that has equal power to my great big one that has, the big raw quartz. Yeah. Go ahead, Danny, go ahead and talk so that it shows up. Yeah, thanks, Kat.
Okay. Yeah, my little ones are like this. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
And also, Steve put in, I think Kathy's is Wisconsin Reiki.
Great. Thank you. Wisconsin Reiki. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, and I also agree with him. I change out my crystals just depending. So I have my clear ones on my grid all the time. And then I put different ones on, different colors and stuff, just depending on what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Taylor put quartz creates portals naturally. Yes, absolutely. So we all love our quartz, and that is a part of the reason that they're on the peace grid, and they're a really easy stone to find too. That's the other thing, that you can get all different kinds of it, and you can find quartz pretty inexpensively, like the little tumbled stones or just the little tiny ones. You can get those for pretty inexpensive. So that's a really nice way to do it as well. So there's not really a right or a wrong, but quartz is an amazing stone, and it does hold so much beauty and so many intentions and the Reiki energy really well.
Okay, let's see. We have Sue. How do you put protection up and afterwards, after a session? So I think she's asking, how do you ground before a session and clear after a session?
1 second, I've got to clear my throat. Okay. So there's a lot of ways to do this, but Reiki is just a really beautiful way to use for sessions. So you can just charge the space with your Reiki symbols, with Reiki energy. A really good way to do this, again, maybe even doing a gasho, kind of preparing yourself, drawing the symbols in your hands, however you turn Reiki on is what you would want to do first. And then I will always draw the Reiki symbols around the room. So this is a really great way to bring in the Reiki energy, set the container of the space. This is going to lift any denser energies and fill the space with those really high vibration energies. So you can draw the symbols on the four walls or the directions around you. If you're not in like an indoor space, just having that intention that it's going all the way around you, the ceiling, the floor, the middle of the room. I also always like to draw a really big one in front of me and bring it into my body. So either drawing the symbols on the walls, or if you need to kind of do it quicker, you can just beam it at the walls. If you're in a setting where that's not appropriate, like maybe a medical setting, Gyoshiho, which is Reiki with your eyes and intending like a power symbol on that wall, on that wall, on that wall, or the space around the person. Let's say you're in a place where there's not walls, they're not separated by walls. They're in like you said, Danny, maybe like the oncology clinics. So there's those kinds of things where you can do it with your eyes and just around yourself and the person. So that's Gyoshiho. You can do it with your breath as well, which is Kokiho, where you're intending the symbol on your mouth, on your tongue, and then you breathe it into the space as well. So that's one way to do it. That with the intention, I'm lifting any denser energies. I'm charging the space with Reiki energy, and that's going to set the container and clear the space. For yourself, I always find that my preparations do that for me. So the Gasho meditation, which is the first pillar of Reiki, the Reijiho, which is, there's multiple things around Reijiho, but it's connecting your third eye and your heart. That is the indication of spirit, and that's the second pillar of Reiki, and that is another like kind of form of a preparation. I'll call in my symbols, draw my symbols on my hands. I'll also do some self Reiki. So that's a way to use just Reiki energy. And then there's a lot of ways outside of Reiki energy that a lot of people like to use. Smoke clearing, so sage or cedar, or maybe whatever grows in your area. I would say that some people can be sensitive to smoke, so that's one thing to consider if you're going to do that. maybe do it a ways before your session, so that it can clear kind of before your session, just because some people are sensitive to that. So there's that's a possibility. There's sound healing. That's another one. Like if you get a little, even just a Tibetan bowl or a rattle, a drum, any other kind of sound healing devices, or chanting and toning. That's another way that you can use sound healing if you don't have an instrument to use. A tuning fork is another really good one. So there's a lot of ways outside of just Reiki energy. You can place crystals at the corners of the rooms, quartz, or a protection stone such as smoky quartz, or tourmaline, black kyanite, some of those. I don't know what's going on with my voice. 1 second, sorry. If it's for yourself, you can place the stones like in your pockets, or wear them as a pendant or something like that. So there's a lot of external tools that you can use that are in addition to Reiki, just Reiki energy. So I would always charge my different things, or have the intention. The sound healing is going to do it on its own, because the vibration, the wavelengths of the notes are going to do that. That's a part of what sound healing does. But also just having that Reiki activated, asking that the Reiki also carries on the wavelengths, the frequencies, is a way to kind of combine them. So you can also combine any of those modalities as well. Danny, was that all of the question? Okay.
Yes, that was it.
Okay, great.
So I have a kind of a technical, oh, go ahead, Kaz.
Yeah, go ahead, Kaz.
Mine hopefully be quick. There was a video that Colleen did when she was with a horse, and the owner or the handler was holding the horse, but Colleen was like, I don't know, maybe 6 feet away from the horse. Did she use distant Reiki also with the animal Reiki being only 6 feet?
Yeah, you can. In that case, like, we always activate all of our symbols along with the Tree of Life animal Reiki symbol. Or if you're not attuned to that, you can use just your regular Reiki symbols. It does kind of have the distance Reiki element to it, but it's not exactly like distance Reiki in how we think of it. It is like an in-person session. So just like with a human, you can have hands on or hands just above the body. It's kind of in the similar fashion, that because of safety reasons with animals, especially large animals like a horse, you can send from a greater distance away, but it is still kind of considered like an in-person Reiki session. I'm always going to have my distance symbol activated, so or distance Reiki activated if you're Reiki 1. But distance Reiki symbol activated, just as a part of my preparations. But I do think that even if you didn't do that, being that close, the Reiki energy is going to go to them. It's more with animal Reiki, it's more of that passive idea of Reiki, also allowing the animal to decide on its level of what a hands-on, right? With a person, you're able to ask that question. With an animal, you need to allow them to decide if they want hands-on Reiki or not. And the other idea of Reiki in motion. So that is the idea that animals are allowed to be kind of free in their space. So animals a lot of times are going to feel more comfortable when they're allowed to kind of roam their space. So in this case, either she was in a stall or out in the paddock. So they're allowed to kind of roam that space, sniff around. Animals, they're like children. They're gonna most of the time like to move a lot, right? So you kind of got to meet them where they're at and allow them. That's how they're going to feel the least amount of stress. That's how they're going to like to do that. Having said that, there are times where it's the most safe to have them, for some reason, I don't want to use the word restrained. A horse in a halter is not restrained, but they're going to need to be on a leash or on a lead rope or something like that, that it's just for safety reasons. Other times, the relationship of the caregiver and the animal, it is that they're going to come out of the stall and be tied. And the horse is super happy with that, super comfortable. They're being brushed. They're liking it. Or maybe it's a horse, you know that they like hands-on. There's all of these different factors that can go into it. And that's fine too. It is also at the practitioner's discretion, and the caregiver, the owner of the horse's discretion. It's not to say that that's wrong. There's just the idea that we, usually equate Reiki to be directly hands-on at all times. And with animals, sometimes a lot of the times that's not the case.
Thanks, Robyn. Just one quick thing. When I give Reiki to myself at night, my cat, like Christina said, come on top. It's like, you ever see these movies where two people are in bed and one is pushing their butt in? That's what he does. It's like he can't get close enough.
I love that.
Yeah, they this guy gravitates to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can smell it. I know that sounds strange, but they can.
Yeah. Well, he was here when you did the invocation. Well, he loves your voice. So
yeah, they sense it, they can smell it. It's, they just have these extra sensory perceptions that we don't as humans. We can feel it,
right.
There's that, or so there's that. And I know they can feel it too. I don't mean it that way, but they absolutely can sense it. So
yeah,
it's just, what's crazy to me is that from how far away they can sense it sometimes. Like my cat will come in from outside and it's like, and she's not like she was close. Like, how did you know? It's just extraordinary sometimes.
Yeah. Thanks, Robyn.
Yeah. All right, Danny. So we have time. We'll go ahead and get to Meg's question. Do we have a quick question that you had one more person? No. Okay.
We can go with Meg.
Okay, go ahead, Meg.
Okay, on past lives, can I do, and on karma, can I do the Reiki long distance symbol with the mental emotional symbol and the power symbol on past lives and karma?
Yeah, 100%. So that
would work.
Yeah, it's a great place to use the distance symbol, because distance symbol transcends time and space. So it's not just over distance, it's over time as well. So the distance symbol is a great symbol to use for past life work, karmic work, ancestral work, like ancestral healing, generational trauma, things like that. The distance symbol is a really great symbol to use for that.
And can I use that on the future too? With the future?
Yes. Great question. Yep, absolutely. Use it to the future, your future self, the descendants. So even if you don't have descendants, like, children or something like that, you can send it to the descendants as a group, kind of like the ancestors as a group. It's a great thing to send to the future for even just like, the world in the future, things like that. Yeah, you can use it for all of those time related things. You can use all of the symbols and use it in conjunction with this other symbols as well. But I love the distance symbol to send Reiki forward and backward, above and below and within. So in those time, in the time spaces, the distance symbol is a great symbol to use.
Can I do that for other people as well?
As long as you have their permission, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's as Taylor said, holographic, multidimensional. It is the only limitations around it, in my opinion, are just ourselves. That it is infinite and limitless and enlightened, and pure. and you know, we just don't always know the possibilities that it contains, but it contains all of them. So yeah, great question, Meg.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Danny, was there one more?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Em.
Hi, sorry about that. I did have a question. Can the ignitions, do they last in perpetuity? And by that, I mean across lifetimes.
Good question. I think that if your spirit and your soul wants that, I would say yes. I'm just trying, you know, I'm thinking of a situation where I have sent it back in a past life. And it, yeah, it went to that past life. And I think too, there's also a part of Reiki that is remembering, because there are, you know, a lot of cultures around the world that still remember all of this and things like Reiki energy. They haven't forgotten it like we have in this culture. And I think that many of us that are part of this culture, that are in our process of remembering, have had some form of Reiki, you know, that idea that we're able to channel life force energy, or in this infinite spiritual wisdom that is within, as opposed to from an outer authority, before, you know, especially so many of us that are called to this, and we have past lives where we know we were healers in some way, shape, or form. Either through past lives or ancestral history. We know that we were healers. We have memories of that, or we have instances through Reiki that we have been shown that we were that way. So there, I don't know if I have specifically seen where an attunement has gone into a past life, other than there's the awakening of the remembering and connecting that into this life. And so I would say that that is in a similar vein. It just may not have occurred to me that it was an attunement in that way. Actually, what the Reiki is doing is it's awakening that part of us that has existed from the time of humans existing, that it's connecting us back into that, into that remembering. And, you know, especially dependent on, you know, the different cultures that you might come from, where maybe it's in your genetic or ancestral history, or maybe in a past life you came from a different lineage, that it might be in there in the past. But in general, I think that in this lifetime, it's helping us to move more into that remembering of what and who we are, and the access that we actually have to it, at least in our culture. Because like I said, there's a lot of other cultures that already do that, and they pass it down, you know, that knowing and that remembering. So I know that I've sent it to the future, so I don't see why I wouldn't send it to the past. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm more or less trying to figure out, is all the work that I'm doing now, do I have to repeat it in going forward, in the next life, in the next iteration, you know, however it shows up, like really carrying it forward? Because thanks to my time on Mount Karama, like there's a lot of recall occurring, and you know, I was guided to bookend the trip with Danny and Taylor in different facets before I left and when I came back. And in addition to all the work being done there, as well as with you and Colleen and Sue and Pam and William over the last 3 years, you know, On some level, I don't ever want to be that stupid again. If everybody can understand and appreciate that, the universe will keep teaching the lesson until it's learned. And I think I heard you once share dark night of the soul. I decline to grow through that again. I would like retention and, in perpetuity going forward.
Yeah. I think that it absolutely affects, kind of all, well, I hesitate to always use the word absolutely, but I fully believe that it affects kind of forward and backward if we so choose. And it's funny that you said Taylor, because Taylor put in the chat, I feel like what we do be receive now affects all versions of self and all time now. We're so multidimensional that I do. And I hear you, Em, you're definitely in a cycle that a lot of us go through, unless we were fortunate enough to be fully raised in our authentic self from the time we were born with a connection to divine and pure source of love. So yeah, I think, there's those times you see the people that are the change in the lineage, and they are the linchpin of their lineage. Generational things, ancestral things have been passed down for at least as long as they know, for the generations that they're able to know about, right? And they are the crux of the change. They are the linchpin of the change moving forward. And however that looks, even if it's not, maybe it is with children, maybe it's not with children. And they have come here to do that. And that is a part of why they came here, because they are changing the lineage. And other times it's with their own past lives. It's with their own lifetimes. They have lived a certain level of lifetimes, or there's all sorts of things where they have lived in a certain way, and this is the lifetime that they are the linchpin moving forward. And it doesn't mean that the lifetimes before don't also shift, they don't also change, that it doesn't go back, or time is defining time is strange, because it's like we're here and we're also living all of those, and we're living our future lifetimes. We're so multidimensional that we put it on a linear construct, but at the same time it's not. So however that looks to you, because every person defines that differently, but there you also see that in past lives as well, that you are changing everything moving forward. So yeah, however, but I do think that, I know for me, I've had a multitude of lifetimes where I have been, and I think I've shared this in class, but where I have been a soldier, and made so much sense when I found that out. I mean, multitude of lifetimes, and this lifetime I chose to come here and have a lifetime of peace and not choose that. And it's interesting looking back, once I learned that in my lifetime, like that choice, when I was in that place of that, I could have chosen that again, and I didn't. And so, and how appealing it was to me at the time, and not knowing why, because I mean, my mom, my dad's the same. It's not like it came from them. So there's that piece of it, no pun intended, where I came and I changed that, and it's changed moving forward. Like, it's not, this is the change in that. And so, I know from my own personal experience that is, and for many people's personal experience of how this lifetime, or recent lifetimes, or maybe recent lifetimes moving forward, are going to be the change in what they have lived on this planet.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And as you were talking, my liver was just going nuts. And, in working on the doctorate in naturopathic medicine and doing the Reiki, and like so much came through in what you just shared. And so thank you. Thank you. A lot of releasing.
Thanks, Anne. And I love the point too of feeling that in your physicality, the physical body too, because that's a part of it. We have human suits here, we have physicality, and the earth has physicality. And yeah, that's really kind of a beautiful point as to part of it as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and open the circle now. I think, anything that you want to find with us is at Reiki Lifestyle. Our social media is Colleen's is Reiki Lifestyle Official. Mine is Robyn Benelli Reiki. So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram mostly. I do have a TikTok, but I have like 10 videos, so you can follow me there, but you're going to find more content for me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. And then our class schedule, anything else, those articles, the free downloads, all can be found at Reiki Lifestyle. And then we also have a YouTube, but most of the content that we put on YouTube, we also put on our podcast platform. But you do get to see all of us and our lovely faces. So you can follow us on YouTube and subscribe to us there as well. All right, Danny, thank you so much for being here. And
yes, this is great. Yeah, nice to see everybody.
Yeah, and your perspectives, and always so helpful. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and open the circle and just place your hands in Gasho. Just take a few deep breaths. Just breathing in that beautiful oxygen, that air, that Reiki energy that's surrounding you, that love. And say thank you to you, how great you love, how deeply you care, how beautiful you are. We say thank you to the Reiki energy for all that you do for our lives. We say thank you to each other. It's just such a beautiful community, and always in such gratitude for you all and for this circle that we get to have, and how beautiful you all are. Just such gratitude for that. Thank you so much for being here with us. And to the illumined ones and to the Reiki energy, we just ask that you stay with us throughout our day, our week, our month, and our life, and that the power of this circle and just all of this community carry forward into our day. So we open the circle now. Thank you. And so it is. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.